Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whisky. My name's VMPF, and on today's episode we've got a comparison which I don't do often enough. But before we get into that, to address the quick elephant in the room, you might have noticed that my shelves have disappeared from behind me. I'm going to be doing a quick little bit of renovation in this room over the next couple of weeks, so for the next few reviews that'll be gone, and then in a couple of weeks time I'll have my kind of relatively new setup with a new shelving system behind me. I'm going for a casks just like everybody else, so no surprises there, but yeah, there is going to be a bit of flux while I'm doing that. On to this today then, and I should say at the top of the show that the new Doocot, which you're obviously here to see, was sent to me by the guys at Kingsbarns, so massive thank you to them for that. But today I thought, because I have the original Dream to Dram, I am going to do a quick comparison of the two and see what we've got. Now, Kingsbarns have been around for actually nearly a decade now, which is pretty cool, established in 2014. They had a cask from 2014, but that disappeared for whatever reason, and they've replaced it with their kind of 2015 first cask. I'm not sure why. But that has been maturing away, and they keep that in what they call their Doocot, the Dovecot. So, by the by, that's why the new one's called what it is. But after they had a reasonable maturation period, they released the Dream to Dram, which went down quite well in the whiskey world. You know, the whiskey industry, the YouTubers, all that stuff. We kind of liked it. I liked it a lot. I reviewed it quite well. I was grateful for this because my mum actually bought me this for my birthday, which is pretty cool. One of the few distilleries in Scotland I've actually been to. I'm very, very drastically understudied with Scottish distilleries and actually visiting them, but by the by, really lovely place. Well worth visiting if you're in that area of Fife, for sure. Now, as I said, that we really enjoyed this one. So it was a bit of a sad news day to find out that they were going to be removing this from their core range. They've managed to release this kind of like batch on batch, year on year for a good long while, and it's always sad to hear about a whiskey that you know and love that is going to be replaced by something that you don't know, and hopefully that you will love, but that you're yet to kind of meet and find out about. So it is a bit of a kind of sketchy time. So I'm really grateful that they sent this over to me because it might well have passed me by otherwise. But yeah, so now they're removing this one and they're bringing out the Doocot, which is slightly different. Now, just to give you a quick idea, and I will be going into a tasting in a bit. Obviously, they've retained the bottle shape, so this is the original one here. Now, the only real words apart from Doocot and Dream to Dram that have changed is the cask makeup. Now, on this, you've got first fill ex-bourbon and first fill STR matured. The new Doocot has, if I show you this, there you go. It just says ex-bourbon barrels and STR barriques. Now, you have to make an assumption on that, and that's basically that they probably want to use a certain proportion of not first fill or refill, as we would call it, for an undisclosed amount. Now, that's pretty normal. It's pretty normal across the industry, especially for a relatively cheap bottle. You know, these are £45. This is directly replacing that, £45. So I'm not too bothered about that. One thing we do know is that this has been aged a little longer than this. If you can see a quick side by side, or for this, for continuity purposes, a bit lighter, a bit darker. So we like that. You know, and it's worth noting as well, like I say, the bottle hasn't really changed much in terms of design. It still looks pretty cool. The one thing they did let us know is a mixture on the back here. It says 90% ex-bourbon barrels and 10% of the STR. And this is like an ex-red wine. It's Portuguese red wine, I think, which is pretty good. They've retained the ABV, 46%, and they've retained the price at £45. So yeah, all that remains to be seen then is it better? Does it taste good? Let's check it out. I've obviously got some glasses pre-poured here. No need to worry about which is which because we can tell by the colour difference. Whoosh, whoosh, whoo. It's not so different, but yeah. Let's have, nearly dropped it. Let's have a quick taste of the Dream for Dram and see what I thought about that. To get a good comparison. Now, one thing I've always enjoyed about the Dream to Dram is that it's a nice light whiskey. It's not a really big heavy hitting whiskey, but that's okay because I quite often fancy a nice light whiskey these days. As I've said quite frequently on my videos, I do a bit of a full circle at the moment. I'm coming back into kind of lighter ex-bourbon flavours, so this really does suit me. It's light. It's got a lot of juicy apples on it. Let's try on the palate quickly. Now, And this is what I loved about this whiskey, is it started out like a really nice kind of juicy apples, and then you'd get this kind of like hit of spice, which I characterise as a touch of cinnamon with a bit of like it's a white pepper powder, you know, like ground white pepper. Really lovely dram, really lovely dram. Let's get onto the Doocot then and see what we've got. So yeah, obviously both of these are natural coloured, non-chill filtered as stated on the label, which is cool, we like that. More of that please, industry. Nice deeper colour. Let's get onto the nose. Okay, so for me, if I do a quick, it's got those same kind of, it's a very light dram again, but it's got those same juicy notes. But for me, it's got an added layer of complexity, a bit more of depth to it, because that extra oak influence is kind of taking hold. So there's some extra kind of oakiness to it, and there's some extra mellowness, let's say. It's chilled out a little bit in the extra year or so, I guess, that it's had. Let's try on the palate. Okay, so it is a little different on the palate. You still have that juicy characteristic there, but whereas the first one had like a big hit of kind of juiciness that was quickly disabled by a big hit of spice, which, you know, again, I quite liked. This one's slightly different. It doesn't have that big step change between the two. It still has that kind of juicy element to it, but the spiciness has been kind of mellowed down a little and replaced with a kind of a more well-balanced liquid. It doesn't kind of spike into the spiciness. There's a little bit more oak influence there. So really what you're getting is kind of more of the juicy notes that we got on the first, and less of the kind of like harsh spiciness. Harsh is probably the wrong word, but that's the only way I can describe the kind of spike that you would get. It replaces the juiciness, whereas now you have a more well-balanced juiciness that mingles in with that spiciness that is still there, but just less of a spike. So for me, dare I say, I think this is actually better than the Dream to Dram, which again I really enjoyed, and I'm really glad that they've managed to retain things like the non-chill filtered, the natural colour, the price, the ABV. Yeah, I mean, obviously you never want to see a kind of a drop in quality or anything like that, and I don't think there is a drop in quality in this. So it's obviously a shame that we're not seeing the words, you know, first fill on here, but that's not the be all and end all of a whiskey. You know, it can put people off if you're only reading the words, for sure, but for me, the tasting is the proof, and in my opinion, I think that the Doocot is a more well-rounded and therefore better, again in my opinion, whiskey than the Dream for Dram. So if you're watching this and you were worried that, again, as I said earlier, a Dream that you know and love, a Dram that you know and love is being replaced by something that you don't know, I'd say give it a go, because for me it retains that ID, it retains that kind of distinct nature of Kingsbarns that they're kind of bringing through, that light floralness that's coming through with a little bit more age. So it's just going through a little bit more of maturity. We like that. Let me know in the comments below if you've managed to try the Doocot yet, if you've managed to try the Dream to Dram as well, because I know that's been reaching a bit far and wide now, so hopefully you're able to get hold of that. But let me know in the comments below what you think of this. Would love to have a conversation about it. For me, it's a winner. If you were even remotely interested in getting this, please do so. Give it a go. I think it's a good dram. Catch you again on more whiskey reviews.